Nice to meet you. I'm Greg. I'm in that book, but it's with other friends of mine that we all. My name is Greg Ruth. I am a writer and illustrator. I make a lot of books. I do book covers and posters and children's literature and graphic novels and DVDs and Blu-rays. We live in a very old town. I think it was originally settled in the 1600s. So I love the history here, and we have a fall festival here every year where the whole town kind of opens up. There's food and vendors, and all the kids run free. Our house is the old town doctor's house, and my wife, who's an artist herself, we kind of partner up and open our doors to kind of contribute and be part of the town. I have a weird job that a lot of people don't really understand what I do or how I do, and it gives an opportunity to answer that question.
What medium is this?
Sumi ink on paper.
So it's like a brush.
Just dry brush. So you'll dip it in the sumi, it's very thick ink, and I'll get my fingers and kind of pull any excess off. And then when you drag it across, it kind of runs out of steam, and you get that nice dithering.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. I work largely in pencil and ink for the most part. I'm a real kind of black and white art aficionado. I prefer the tonalities of black and white work. I love the immediacy of an ink drawing. I love seeing thumbprints from a pencil drawing and the smudges where coffee dripped and all that kind of stuff. To me, it's much more like evidence of the art rather than some finished high-end kind of precious thing. I grew up in Houston, Texas in the 70s and 80s, and I was the kind of weirdo art freak. It wasn't an environment that nurtured art, and I didn't think that was something that was real that you could do. I was aware of artists, but they were old and dead, and that happened over in Europe, I guess, I was really struggling in junior high school. I felt really lost. I had no kind of real purpose. My mother had always kind of put me in little art classes here and there. The high school for performing and visual arts was in Houston. She made me apply, and I got in, and I attended, and it changed my life. I mean, it was suddenly I was like, oh my God, there's other art weirdos in this town. And then when you leave high school, these are the art schools that you're going to want to go to. And so they really made sure, like, you're here because we want you to have an art life. I can draw naturalistically, fairly naturally, I think, but really it's work. And at this point, there's 25, 30 years of professional work experience of drawing every day, of thousands of pages of comics. I have a ridiculous catalog of comics that I've done. I've done Freaks of the Heartland is a horror comic with Steve Niles. Then I did Conan the Barbarian with Kurt Busiek. And then I did Twin Peaks for Kids kind of mystery story for Scholastic. Then I did this Apache story for Hachette with Ethan. I love importing. There's a lot of samurai techniques and storytelling that's in Inde. There's always an interesting handshake between Westerns and feudal Japan. I love stories. I grew up absolutely being kind of obsessed with stories. Film and movie narratives were always there. I grew up on this kind of 1940s through 1960s kind of media. So when I get a chance to do an old Hitchcock film, for me, it's like I get to go back and whisper into the 8-year-old ear, like, hey, you get to draw this. You get to draw something for this now, buddy. I've been doing Alfred Hitchcock's re-release of Notorious for Criterion, and it's just a great thrill.
Darling, it's not that I don't trust you. But when you're in love at my age, every man who looks at you, woman, is a menace. Will you forgive me for even talking about it? I'm very contrite.
The thing that I love so much about this particular project is that it's the very first Hitchcock film I ever saw when I was like 9, 10 years old. I fell in love with Hitchcock and Ingrid Bergman, and of course, Cary Grant is terrific in that.
Any footprints in that sand yet?
No, nothing yet.
I'm a huge portrait fanatic. I can't draw them enough. I can't stop collecting them or looking at them. I love it when someone looks at a drawing and says, they look like they're looking back at me, and then you go, yeah, that's it. I guess Notorious is the 7th title I've done for Criterion. We did Zatoichi, Three Yellow Samurai, both of the King Hu films, Moonrise, Breaking Point. There's a lot, and I love it. It's just a perfect place where art and film, for me, can dance with each other. Sometimes it's something that I know, like Notorious was a leveled achievement job that I was so excited to do. I admire that film so much, but I'd never heard of A Touch of Zen or Dragon Inn. But I'm a huge samurai film fan. I love kung fu movies. There's a certain language and assumption that goes into those, and for the most part, they always kind of hit those points. But these King Hu films were just another animal altogether, and I've never seen a wuxia film told with that kind of visual, beautiful language before. I think that was one of the ones that was the most challenging because there's so many visual cues to pick up on. Moonrise was tough as well. There's a lot of moments where any one of those things could be it. I was going to do these splashy head things and use the sense of the water. The story has a lot of this, this guy suffering his father's suicide. There's this water motif that's in it, and so trying to figure out how to depict that was tricky, and it was just too oblique. A cover is a different thing than an interior piece. An interior piece can bore down and be specific. It can be a moment. It doesn't have to represent the family of all the scenes and all the narrative parts that are in the film. Covers need to get you there, and that can be really interesting to kind of puzzle out. I think when you are able to kind of find that perfect point where art and purpose and narrative and representation of what you're supposed to be there to celebrate and sell, it's just so great. There's really nothing like it, so can't stop.